In the United States, the situation about the immigrants is getting more tense by the day. Everyone keeps hiring immigrants to do the badly paid jobs and they even enjoy their media, yet they don't show them proper support, almost treating them like labor puppets. New laws are discussed every day to decide what to do about it. At a burger joint, JP takes over the drive-through shift. Two clients act very entitled and ask for things he can't provide, so they insult him using racist terms. JP immediately insults them back and exposes them on the speakers, causing them to leave in a huff. Next, a car full of girls comes through and JP is surprised to see his sister Lily, whose friends drop big news. She's gotten into college, so she'll be going away soon. When JP goes home, he tells Lily that he's proud of her but he'll also miss her a lot. As they take a picture together, JP notices something behind her ear and learns she's gotten a tattoo in secret. He agrees not to tell their mom for now. Sometime later, the family throws a party to celebrate Lily's accomplishment. While they enjoy themselves, Lily makes a cootie catcher and playfully throws it at JP to call him a dork. They also make the L with their hands to call each other a loser affectionately. Their mother gives a heartfelt speech for her daughter, and when it's Lily's turn to talk, suddenly police lights appear outside. The officers burst into the house and arrest the entire family, as it's revealed that Governor Finn has issued an executive order to arrest all illegal immigrants and their American children, as accomplices for not reporting their parents. While Finn appears on the news explaining his zero-tolerance policy, all the children are thrown into cages and JP is devastated to see Lily is put on a bus and taken away to a different place. A few days later, an official from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security requests to see JP. Any attempts to overturn the executive order have failed and JP's mother will be deported, but it's possible for her to stay if a natural-born citizen of the U.S. can claim her. JP can't legally do it because he's still detained, however he has an option: the Elderly American Tolerance and Understanding Project. It's a community service program consisting of helping senior citizens in a retirement home, and if JP completes it, he'll be set free. JP agrees to join and is interviewed by two very serious officials who don't like his jokes. A bunch of immigrants' kids are also interviewed and get their picture taken as criminals. All of them agreed to be there because they had no choice, so their interview answers are full of sass and contempt toward the whole process. Before they leave for the retirement home, Officer Bruce reminds them of the rules. They can't communicate with the outside world, they must respect curfew, and if they misbehave he'll bring them back to the detention center. They also must wear ankle monitors at all times so the program coordinators can monitor their movements. Sometime later, the group makes it to a retirement home called Alcove and meet Eddie, the founder of the program. As he shows them around, he gives a speech about this being a rewarding experience, but nobody takes him seriously. He also introduces them to the operation officers Cynthia and James. During their walk through the different facilities, JP notices a lady called Greta on a wheelchair with a lily in her hands. After the tour is over, the volunteers get to have lunch and JP gets to befriend the others while complaining about the horrible quality of the food. Big Mac notices Micah is white, so she clarifies she's Argentinian. Chris admits he's scared of touching old people and that he doesn't eat anything if it wasn't made by his mom because of possible poisons. Camilla suddenly snaps, saying the group is taking everything too lightly and this is actually serious. As Camilla leaves the table, James comes over and gives everyone their uniforms plus their assignments. JP is again drawn to Greta and tries talking to her, but she doesn't respond. Micah tells him to read to her, so JP grabs a random book and starts reading. Suddenly Greta says, "You will die here," which leaves JP in shock. Greta begins crying and gets louder, so Cynthia rushes to inject her with a sedative and will her away. In the evening, the group tries to convince Chris to eat something because the only thing he's taken all day is his inhaler. Chris refuses and says he thinks the organizers are watching from behind a dark glass, certain that something fishy is going on. He announces he'll try to escape and doesn't listen to the others when they warn him against it. Chris just stands up and tries to open a locked door, which triggers the alarm and the security officers quickly show up to tase him. The others can only watch as Chris is taken away. In the middle of the night, JP leaves the bed to use the restroom, noticing an owl at the window on his way out. When he comes back, he finds an old lady who keeps repeating "Virgil will set you free." Suddenly the woman jumps on him and tries to hurt him, but Cynthia arrives just in time to sedate her and take her away while James scolds JP for being weak. The next day, Eddie takes JP and his friends to another ward to show them the patients with serious conditions. He also apologizes to JP, explaining that what happened last night was because someone left this ward open and the old lady sneaked out. JP's friends opt out of this ward but JP chooses to stay and Eddie orders James to show JP the ropes. However, James uses slurs to refer to JP and things get tense, so Eddie has to remind them to behave. Afterward, James and JP put one of the weakest seniors to bed. As they get closer, a patient on the neighboring bed suddenly bites JP and causes him to pass out. Moments later, JP wakes up in the infirmary and is shocked to see Lily working there. As she tells him that she's closer than he thinks, the room changes color and gets all bloody, only for JP to wake up from the nightmare. Micah is there to check on his wound and they discuss how the staff treats the elderly like cattle. The duo then joins the others at lunch and they realize they haven't heard from Chris since he tried to escape. When Cynthia walks by, Camilla asks her about Chris, so Cynthia explains he was sent back to the detention center. After she leaves, Big Mac says Cynthia is lying because he found Chris's inhaler in the hallway and he wouldn't go anywhere without it. In the evening, Big Mac takes Greta to Philip's room so they can keep each other company. While Big Mac tries to connect the TV, Philip's hand suddenly bends into freaky angles while Greta watches in horror. The hand drops before Big Mac turns around, and when he comes closer, he notices that Philip has stopped breathing. At that moment Philip wakes up and his entire body starts twisting in painful ways, falling off the bed as it continues to bend. Philip begins walking like a horror film monster and growls at Big Mac, who runs away in fear. The next day, Philip's dead body is taken away. Eddie talks to all the volunteers and employees, saying they don't know what happened to Philip but it'll be investigated. However, Big Mac tells his friends what he really saw. Then Eddie brings James and JP to the garden to introduce them to his owl Virgil. He sends the owl out to hunt while explaining that Virgil is the gatekeeper of the alcove, so he sees everything that happens. Then Eddie points out there's quite an obvious animosity between James and JP, and he wants them to let go of their differences by hugging it out. The guys hug tightly but they whisper insults, not forgiving each other yet. Once it's over, JP reveals he used the hug to steal James' keys. That night, JP unlocks his ankle monitor and does the same for the others so they can have some fun. They go to the pool where JP and Micah flirt with each other until they share a kiss. They decide to take things further and sneak into a room to do the dirty. The next morning, JP wakes up and screams when he sees an old lady next to him, but it's just a prank from Micah, who is nearby. After putting the monitors back on, the friends return to work. While JP shares his naughty adventure with Big Mac, he can't help noticing Greta playing with a cootie catcher. He tells her Lily used to make those and wonders if she's met her before, but Greta's only answer is to gift him the catcher. When he grabs it, Great catches his hand and refuses to let go until Cynthia and James come to sedate her and take her away. Then JP goes back to his friends and they all realize they don't remember what happened after the pool. JP notices a mark on Camilla's neck and they conclude they've been sedated, which confirms Chris's suspicions. That night, JP plays with the cootie catcher and discovers the hidden message is the word help. Worried, JP sneaks into the other ward and finds Greta sleeping. He tries waking her up but the sedative is too strong. At that moment he hears some voices and rushes to hide under the bed. It's James and Cynthia, who increase Greta's dose so she's as weak as possible when she wakes up. Greta's hand falls and startles JP, who makes a noise that alerts the duo. Thankfully they pay no mind and leave. Then JP comes out and checks Greta's ear, where he finds Lily's tattoo. Greta has been Lily all along and she's been trying to tell him so since the beginning with the flower and the cootie catcher. Horrified, JP runs out of the room only to be punched by James. The next day, Big Mac, Camilla, and Micah are worried by JP's sudden disappearance, which reminds them of Chris. They agree to investigate, so Camilla stays outside James' office and does her best to distract him while Big Mac and Micah sneak inside. Using a clip, Big Mac unlocks the desk drawers and finds a file with blueprints for a strange machine. Another file says Chris is in solitary, but he doesn't know what it means. At that moment James gets tired of Camilla's babbling and enters the office, so Big Mac and Micah run to hide behind the furniture. Luckily he doesn't stay for long and the duo can escape safely. When Big Mac and Micah are about to tell Camilla what they learned, James appears behind them and tells Big Mac to fix the vent screws. While Big Mac gets on a ladder to work, one of the patients tries to hurt Cynthia, so Bruce jumps in to stop the attack. In the process he accidentally pushes the man against the ladder and causes Big Mac to fall to the ground. While an unconscious Big Mac is taken away, JP wakes up in a lab. He's strapped to a chair and half of his face looks old, just like the other people that are tied up too. James is also there preparing some sort of chemicals. By watching the staff, JP learns that the door is opened by a code, so as soon as he's alone he starts working on freeing himself. At the same time, Finn meets with Eddie at a burger joint, which belongs to Finn's company. It's a big success because their food is pretty cheap, revealing the meat they use is actually people from Alcove. Finn thinks it's what they deserve because they're not fully American so they shouldn't be in his country. Back to JP, he manages to leave the chair and sneaks around until he gets to the lock. Now he needs the password. He remembers the woman saying that Virgil would set him free and how Eddie described his owl as the alcove's gatekeeper, so he uses Virgil as the code. The door opens and JP gets to leave. This is soon noticed by James and he alerts Bruce and Cynthia right before they can sedate Big Mac. The officers leave to look for JP and Big Mac reveals he's just pretending to be unconscious. He also notices Bruce left his keys behind. Meanwhile JP tries to move as fast as he can, which is hard because his body has become very weak. He goes into another room and discovers all the immigrants are sent there to be used for meat, and he can see their bodies in bags or in the chopping machine. Terrified, he runs away and finds Micah, so he begs for help. Soon James finds them both and Micah surprises JP with an injection, saying they never did the dirty before he passes out. When JP wakes up, Micah is there dancing with Eddie because she's been his spy all along. Eddie says he isn't a cannibal, just American. JP feels dizzy with the effects of the sedative but still asks what happened to Lily, so Micah explains. The immigrants are injected with hormones to make their flesh soft for consumption, and the accelerated aging is a side effect. This helps them hide the process because nobody pays attention to old people in retirement homes. What happened to Philip is the last stage, which lets them know that the person is ready to be processed for meat. In her room, Camilla is struggling with her monitor, desperate to help her friends. At that moment Big Mac appears in the vents and slips the keys to her. Camilla immediately rushes to the dining room and breaks the dark glass Chris mentioned, discovering a room with monitors that the coordinators use to keep an eye on them. At that moment James appears and drags her away, sedating her as well. When Camilla wakes up, both she and JP are in the special ward and getting old. On a TV they watch Finn offer a disgusting hate speech and they agree they must escape to expose him. Lily is also in the room, so JP promises he'll get her out and they form the L with their fingers. When James, Cynthia, and Micah come over to sedate everyone again, Camilla kicks their tray as a sign. All the old people leave their beds and surround the trio, attacking them to finally get their revenge. As chaos ensues, JP leaves the ward and hides in the staff room when he sees Bruce coming after him. Bruce opens the door and JP jumps on him, only to be easily overpowered as Bruce throws him on the ground and painfully pulls out his catheter. Big Mac is still in the vents and sees Bruce choking JP, so he comes out and puts the catheter around Bruce's neck until he passes out. The fight in the ward continues and the alarm soon goes off. Big Mac helps JP walk out, but he has to drop him when a guard tries to catch them. As Big Mac pushes the door against the guy, a bunch of old people come from the corridor and lots of staff members come out of the door, meeting in the middle to trigger another mob fight. JP and Big Mac manage to push their way through and find Camilla taking Lily to the elevator. James tries to stop them, so Big Mac breaks a chair on his head and joins the fight. The old people are hungry for revenge and start killing the staff while JP, Lily, and Camilla escape in the elevator. The elevator drops the trio at a corridor they don't recognize, so JP goes out to investigate. Meanwhile Big Mac becomes the crowd's leader and guides them out to their freedom. They make it to the road where a woman is trying to drive home and when Big Mac tries to ask for help, she gets too scared and escapes by driving backward. Back to JP, he finds an old Chris in a cage but before he can free him, Eddie shows up and starts choking him. JP retaliates with a bottle to his head, however Eddie quickly overpowers him and knocks him out. Then he puts JP on the chopping machine as he talks about the nation's progress. Luckily Camilla shows up and hits Eddie with a plank to knock him out, then she gets JP off the machine just in time. Eddie soon wakes up and attacks the duo again at the same time that Chris's body begins twisting. Noticing this, Lily presses a button to open the cage and a crazy Chris jumps on Eddie to brutally kill him and throw his body into the machine before dying. The machine quickly makes burgers out of Eddie. Afterward JP, Lily, and Camilla leave the building and sit on a bench in the garden where they fall asleep. Big Mac and his crowd eventually find them and Big Mac freaks out because they won't wake up, thinking they're dead. However they're just pranking him and the trio opens their eyes to prove they're fine. Soon all news outlets are covering the case. Finn has fled the country, and his burger chain has been closed down. Every other person involved gets arrested, including the official from the US Department of Homeland Security. The executive order is also lifted, and JP's mother is finally free. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.